ki e pole pole ilo he tonga kotoa ilo I he fo I kolote
mau dai la ke fina pio ma mario e mo le le Tonga ta po ta mo le dio wal fitu po ni mai pe ma my live stream my broadcasting me per ta nga fa ni roa I a honi we a moni to get ni kamata ni a week ago we loa ko a brief week because we get ni fa ta mai ai na sino ko na fa na aki fa ta ha to da wa na ni a we loa ko Pacific Region Infrastructure Facility ke ko na feelinga ki mo ta na noa mai ba ko ye suwa mai ba ko ye apia I ha mo ko no fa ni kamata a honi we be ko hub o vai ngai tala no ko no filave I pe mo ngai langa fakalakalaka ko ia ki ka au ilo ko infrastructure ai ko ta mo ko ia weekend ko ro mai ha panga maria I ala ko to no ka wa tu nga we e pasu ki ta pa ko ni ki na feelinga ke ko ha ngai me le ko e fu tu me tu nga o me te to na o no winga ko ta wa nga we e pasu ki pe ka no pa panga maria I lo ko ia me basu ki ngai whanga mari ngai pore ko ia no tuku atu ngai fotu tu ko ni ngai ngau ko to ko ia ai basu ki ngai por kala ma ko ia fotu tu ofai pe da honga teke ngai me ko ia firma o na do ko da whenga a ki ngai ho nga we ko ia ngai me o ta po tu mai pe be foki ko no foi ai ge ilo ngai yola ko ia ngai ko lo ngai patongi do nga foka hoko me Pacific Region Infrastructure Facility ko ia ko kamata ko ia I tamini ai ko ono ho fine fa ko ia pong ini ko conference do ki kamata ia I taha a ta kamai ga ia ha mo pe ho ki sene a Australia pe mo fisi ai ko ta pong ia I sene taha wa fisi taha ia mo pe mo tongan ko ngai ka venga ko na ko ki ai ko hai ngai po tu ko ki ta lava matatari ngai po ta mai po na tu lava ngai ki ri wa ki ai e ko ngai pala ni ngai lalahi ko ia ki tu po ekonomika tu lo pe ka ki nai hata ko mahu'inga ki ta honga makai e to tongi fra luku fu ko to o mo ui e po ka makaka to pe ko life cycle costs kita wai ko to ki pe ngai ne ke malu ko social malu ko ata kai ko ngai ngai ko ta ko sio pe ngai ko more yo no to wa ke pe na do ke na o mai o ko pe ke to pa le I ngai o ko yo ngai project ki pe he ke ko ai ke to la he ngai ka mai se to ta pe mo ka kai ko yo I ko no ta ka ke na ka wa to va fi ngai ai no po social le ke ka mai ngai tu uniko ngai po tu ko ne o fai ke o fai ko ma wa ko ia Tongatapu mo fine ke hol ma ben na dor ko ia na o ka wi programa pa be ki ka wa fe na dor ma du e ha ko wata ke mo dor ko mo nga fa ko nga be ni I uta pa ki ke fi ma we ke ka wa da mai ngai be ko le ko I programa ai local content with private sector participation me ko fo mo nga be I tonga ni ngai ko lo I tonga ni ngai me fo du tu pe ke ka mai fo mo sector ta ngai fo du tu ngai plan ni ben
Whakifia ai whakai atu mo lava mai pe a maro mo tari e whakawhiko na whai atu pe me he tonga chamber pe whaki he pref. Ki mo pe te u kamata whakahoka te tau polokalama ko korebe mo ke u whakatapa maheni whatap ki he awhia o tua o tau tua he tau loto tonga pe a whakatap koe ni mawa ki he whakawhangangi o tau whataha mo programa o pongpongini o ekinista o pungawe ke ngau lalahi apurianga 17 tomoa pe whakatap ki kau whawhe koen me Ngaahi pungai muri ke ngai foreign missions pe foki ki he presidenti o Kautaha Whatataha Ngaahi Pisinisi Tongani, Samvea, pe ke tokoni, pe foki ki he kau taki kotoa pe me he sektoa Tautaha Ngaahi Pisinisi tau whanuani, kau maa foki e kau CEO, pe ke kau taki ngau, me kau whafofonga, pe he ngahi Kautaha Public Enterprises ai pureanga, pe foki ki he ngahi pot ngau ai pureanga. Koe mutuan ko se sif pomana, pe te u ko fatungia pung ko ni ko no fa ko ka beta o programa o nge ko ia o mo me afkia i he programa i mo e ki mo tolu pe hange po mo me ai o ken pe fo ka umuri pe ko ko pe ka tak te nga o aki pe ale fra Britania i ko ngala hi o tau programa ko via ko e ko kina tolu o ku na ka mai ki ta ko fata pung ko ni. Once again, good morning and a warm welcome to everyone. It's really good to see you all this morning after the invitation that was sent out. And it's good. They were all here together at the beginning of the new week, but we know it's going to be a good week, especially starting today. And I know some of us are probably not here because they have just probably finished watching the games, and now the quarterfinal games are set. I think we all know where we are right now, sit for another week, coming up to the semifinals. That's for the World Cup rugby, for those of you who do follow that. So I think that's probably why some of us are probably not here, or some that have come in today, this morning. But once again, for acknowledgement, I would like to acknowledge the presence of God in our midst. I'd like to acknowledge our special guest, our guest of honor this morning, the Minister for Infrastructure, the Honourable 17 Tomoa. Also want to acknowledge the heads and representatives of the foreign missions with us. Also the President of Tonga Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Samuel Vea, and the Deputy President, Vice President Aloma Johnson, who's with us here today. I also want to acknowledge the CEOs for the private sector and the businesses that are also represented here this morning, and also looking out to the CEOs and the representative from the government ministries and the public enterprises. Welcome once again, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. My name is Yosifa Pomana, and I'll be your host this morning just to take us through the program that we have this morning. We've got a packed program, as you can see. The guys will sit there, I'll get there right for us with our tech, but we've got two parts to it. So we would like to start. So just in front of you, you've got the program. While the tech guys pull up our screen once again, we'll start with the opening prayer, and that will be delivered by. Now, apologies, the Reverend Kintoni Mafi is not able to make it this morning to be with us, but we've got another Reverend in-house, and that will be Devita Lavemai, who on the last minute accepted to do the blessings for us this morning. So without further ado, I will ask, let's call him Reverend Devita Lavemai, just for this morning, to please make his way to the podium and start us off with the opening prayer. Malo.
Malo, tauloto. O tua mafi, koe mau tamai whakahewani ka koe awhio. Mau kei whiawhia ke lotu, whiawhia ke hangatu ki hoa whio. Ko hanga hai ni te ke he tawhinga wai, he koe ahu tāwhtaha mea ne mo ui. Pepe mau whiawhia ke hangatu ki hoa whio, he pongpong whakakoloa koen. Kai puria ki mau tolu, ngahi lelei ko toa be koe hu tāwhtaha be a mi hoa whio. Malo mua e mau pong leleo o afio leleo e pong ini ko mau ke mau e koloa e mo ui ne ngona fai mai e amanaki ka ui kai lava mau amanaki ke omi e mau mo ui ki he ngawe anga e pong koin kai ho fina ngalo ofa mau ta i mari ai pe ku mau fia ke whakamalo atu ai ki ho afia fa vetai be o mau lo to e pong koin ke la ko fio lelei be o mau hau Tama ko tupo ano nga ko'y panya o afio. Dahil ne ko'y niye mo fare ha mo e off. Malo ko kay ilang mari e lebe ay tama Pisinisi. Hawaii ki o e fonua. Fifia o e bongbongini ko kay ilang mari e lebe ay fafe fakalakalaki. Ona polo 17 ni tomo ua. Ay umae kau fafe honoko to ape. kau me mi mau I heni mo e kau ho e me mi pa whare alea. Kau CEO e pureanga kai pehe ki Ngaahi private sector. Ui ai mo kau whakafofonga. Malo ku hao pia malu pia e Palestini kai umaa e tokoni. Chamber of Commerce. Ko e whakataha e ni o mau au kamata. Wike o e whakataha ko e nua mana ke mau whai. Ko e ngahi ngawe anga lalahi I he konteni ni ti lanu pulu. Mau no atu ho lau maari e hifo mai mua tataki ki mau tolu. I he whakataha wa manake mau whai mo e wike ma mawha wa manake mau whanonga ia. Hahaki I lelei te mau whakahoko ko e langi oku ai awhiona pe ia. Whanonga ngā ke se pita aki pe mua ngahi mōni whakautua, pou ao, pou mama, arifa peke o meka kai lau se mau whanonga. Ngai mea utotoni au si ai lotu vai, whamore whakakato lotu pe aho awhia koe mafi. Mau kore ngai marohini a kalaisi ko alo kako mau whakamoui. Amen.
Mahalo pito e te vitala mai, and we obviously, starting off with the prayer gets us in the mood for a great program today. Now, before we continue, let me just say this on the outset before we hand it over to Sam for the welcoming remarks. There's two parts of the program today. So we've got this morning, and then we've got a break, and then we've got the second, which is the virtual conference, just for your information. All right. So I would like to invite the president of the Tonga Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Samuel Avea, to deliver the welcoming remarks for us. Malo Sam.
Good morning. Seems to me that every time we have a conference here, we had to ordain a new reverend. Thank you, Reverend Devita, for today's prayer. Honorable 17 Tomoua, Minister for Infrastructure, Reverend Devita, representatives from heads of mission, representatives of private sector, representatives from government ministries, ladies and gentlemen. I also like to make a special mention of BRIF partners joining the BRIF Week 2023. The Asian Development Bank, Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, the New Zealand Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, the European Union, the European Investment Bank, the United States, and the World Bank. Allow me to acknowledge the co-host of today's event, Pacific Region Infrastructure Facility, or PRIF for short, for their support to allow the Tonga Chamber to host the event for the second time. We hosted the PRIF Week 2022 Tonga Hub last year. I am pleased, as President of Chamber of Commerce, to welcome you all to the PRIF Week 2023 Tonga Hub Day. Tonga is one of 3 hubs across the Pacific. The other 2 are Fiji and Samoa, where key infrastructure stakeholders can meet in person, network, and learn more about infrastructure development and brief work, and services to its 14 Pacific member countries. Today is the only in-person event, and the rest of the week will be virtual, which you are all welcome to join, but please do register. We have a chamber secretariat who can assist you in signing up. Brief Week is a Pacific regional event that aims to bring together infrastructure practitioners and experts, including government officials, development partners, regional organizations, academia, and the private sector to discuss what quality infrastructure means for the Pacific region. enhance awareness of the opportunities for Pacific Island countries of applying quality infrastructure principles in Pacific infrastructure programs, and promote PRIF partners' infrastructure priorities for Pacific Island countries. This year, Chamber of Commerce continues to advocate and promote local participation in infrastructure development, especially for post-COVID-19 economic recovery, but also because of the economic benefits to the people of Tonga. More importantly, local content and private sector participation is one of the 6 key principles of quality infrastructure underscored by PRIF partners, especially the Government of Australia. The challenges for the private sector in Tonga, like elsewhere in the Pacific, are numerous, including isolation, small markets, capacity, and inadequate infrastructure make doing business difficult. As a small economy, it's extremely difficult for small island countries such as Tonga, as they are often excluded from accessing finance for bankable projects from many donors that have threshold access. There are other insurmountable hurdles in financing landscape which I will not dwell on. Nothing will change our geography and our proximity, and as such, Tonga must find innovative ways of working, including close collaborations between the private sector and government to create better and more effective public and private services and products. Last month, I was fortunate to join the Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and his delegation at what is known as the largest Pacific Infrastructure Conference in Brisbane, organised by the Australian Pacific Business Council. We heard PRIF partners' commitment to quality infrastructure development, and their investment in quality infrastructure is crucial for economic growth. An inherent part of the infrastructure investment is national infrastructure planning for sustainable and inclusive economic growth, another key principle of quality infrastructure. The Chamber wishes to commend the Government of Tonga in endorsing the Tonga National Infrastructure Investment Plan 2021-2030 update, which is a revision of Tonga's 3rd National Infrastructure Investment Plan endorsed in 2021 to reflect the disaster caused by the Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai volcanic eruption. The Infrastructure Investment Plan update versions reflects the government's responses to the devastation caused by the Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai volcanic eruption. This is part of longer-term mobilization of resources to repair the resulting infrastructure damage. The infrastructure plan covers the needs directly attributable to the Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai events and the needs that have emerged since the start of the plan in 2021. The plan identifies 47 new projects, 21 which are fully attributable to the Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai event and 7 partly attributable. In monetary terms, the large number of projects is equivalent to some 1.4 billion, that's a billion with a B, or some 10 to 15 years of funding. My point here is the magnitude of investment required for quality infrastructure, and this is reaffirmed by the recent infrastructure conference in Brisbane. Infrastructure investment is an enabler of economic growth, and it provides jobs and economic activity, especially for shovel-ready projects. But there are challenges relating to the availability of local labor, access to finance and procurement requirements, and insurance, to name a few. Value for money procurement is also another principle of quality infrastructure. At PRIF Week 2023, this week we will hear about the opportunities for international contractors to partner with our local companies, improve procurement practices for local content, and investment by PRIF partners in preparing the local market for success. The week's program will also cover labor mobility opportunities, safeguards for infrastructure, and good governance in infrastructure. I'd like to acknowledge one of our speakers this morning, Rima Misa, from the disability sector. Gender and social inclusion in infrastructure provision is also a key principle of quality infrastructure. We are fortunate that Rima will share some of his insights about including the needs of vulnerable groups in infrastructure planning and delivery. The Tonga Chamber believes that Brief Week 2023 continues to be welcome initiatives because it focuses on enhancing private sector involvement in infrastructure planning and development throughout the Pacific. This is also a unique opportunity for infrastructure stakeholders in Tonga to come together and discuss, share their views, and establish a platform for engagement between us, the development partners, and experts to work towards economic prosperity through quality infrastructure delivery. I am greatly encouraged by Brief Week as it provides visibility of local contractors working in infrastructure and facilitates networking opportunities. Should you wish to receive more information about the Brief Week conference and register for the sessions this week, please visit the Brief or Chamber Facebook page or scan the QR code on the banner we have. It could be back there. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome you again and hope that you enjoyed the program and find time to join the regional conference. Thank you. Malo pito.
Malo pito Sam. Whamalo ke lea koe ni moe o mai puputu a whakaakpea moe konferenisi koe ni o tau whahako i a weekend. And again, just to re-emphasize what Sam said, this is the second year that Tonga Chamber has been fortunate to host the Tonga Hub. And just on that information, we've got the week from the 16th, from today until Friday, but just today, it's what we call Tonga Hub. Brief Week Tonga Hub. So that's when we're hosting it here in Tonga and other Pacific Island countries. I also want to make special mention of Caroline Fusmalohi, who's here with us on behalf of PRIF. Really, she's just here to make sure that Sam and I behave and make sure we got a good program running today. But we're very fortunate to be partnering with Caroline and the team up at PRIF with Sean and them to deliver what we call Tonga Hub here in country. So thank you for that. Again, Sam, for that wonderful words. Now, it is my pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker for this morning. Again, as Sam has mentioned, they were at the conference with the minister, and I'm sure what you will be hearing will be part of that experience, and we're so looking forward to that, Honourable Minister. So it is my pleasure once again to invite the Minister for Infrastructure, the Honourable 17 Tomoa, to deliver the keynote speech on quality infrastructure for Blue Pacific Continent, which is our theme for this week. Honourable Minister, Paula.
Tapu ke awhia tua tau lotolotonga. Tapu ke tui o Tonga, King Tupo Wono. Tapu ke Queen o Tonga, Queen na spau tua. Tapu ke Pisinisi kalauni, Tupo toa mon whare. Tapu ke anon pere vai a mahu'inga. Whatapa tu heni ke sea, ton sea, o Chamber of Commerce. Whatapa tu heni ke Keynote me Ngaahi Mission, Amerika ka ma Australia na hien. Tapu atu ki he kau CEO, kau ngāo e whapureanga, mwe kau whafufonga e private sector. Whatapa tu heni ki he whafong wharearea, Tongatapu tata, Tokangaekina tanianga fusmalo. Whatapa tu heni ki a Carolina fusmalo, Tokangaekina Carolina fusmalo, he whafonga e brief ki tongan. Whatapa tu ka tik motol hon kotoa. Whatapat ke whaifkau na tuk whanofa bongbongi ni, Reverend David Moimoi. Ko rewe mua ke whahau kato ai whawaan i he lea whakabritania, ko hui koe taukakai pe moe polkalama o e haon. Please bear with me and I'll tell you all about it. Representatives from heads of missions, President and Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Sam Vea, representatives from the private sector, CEOs, representatives from government ministries, ladies and gentlemen, malo lele, and good morning. It's a pleasure for me to attend this event and provide a keynote address at the Brief Week 2023 Tonga Hub. Brief Week 2023 theme at quality infrastructure in a blue Pacific continent. I believe this is an important topic, not for us just in Tonga, but also for the Pacific countries. Recently, I'm fortunate to attend and participate in the Developing Sustainable Resilient Infrastructure in Blue Pacific Conference in Brisbane, organized by the Australian Pacific Island Business Council. It was the largest Pacific infrastructure conference ever held, bringing together investors around the world, Pacific Island governments, donor partners, and infrastructure practitioners to discuss the key elements of quality infrastructure, investment opportunities, Pacific countries' infrastructure pipelines. Almost 500 participants attended the conference and provided an opportunity for Pacific countries, including Tonga, to share infrastructure pipelines and challenges in an audience of donors and private sector participants from different Pacific regions. The private sector of Australia, New Zealand, United States of America, Japan, France, and other donor countries came together to facilitate connections, to form joint ventures, and the employment of local contractors in delivery of sustainable resilient infrastructure. At the conference, I was fortunate enough to learn more about the Pacific Regional Infrastructure Facility, which the Chamber President has outlined. And I was keen to attend today's event. And I see Brief Week 2023 as providing a platform for more deeper discussion about quality infrastructure in the Pacific and the Brief partners. Turning to Brief Week 2023 theme of quality infrastructure, I'd like to commend Brief for the theme of Brief Week this year. Quality infrastructure in Blue Pacific continent provides direct positive impacts which are critical for economic growth, creating jobs, decreasing environmental impact, and improving effective delivery of public goods and services. Quality infrastructure is not just about building physical assets, providing safe drinking water, producing electricity, but we must be resilient to the damage caused by climate change and natural disasters. As I said, building quality infrastructure has many benefits, and we want these benefits to reach everyone, including women, remote communities, and disadvantaged groups. Quality infrastructure must not only be economically efficient, it must be resilient and inclusive and support Tonga's development goals. Turning to the concept of Blue Pacific, this is based on the idea of Pacific Ocean. Its many individual states is interconnected by shared geography, culture, and challenges. The 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent undergoes that the Blue Pacific is about Pacific peoples, their faiths, religion, cultural values, and traditional knowledge. People know their needs and their potentials, plan and own their development agenda, and act collectively for the good of all. Pacific leaders endorsed the 2050 strategy in 2019, highlighting the concerns for the region's enduring challenges, such as climate change-related impacts, the intensification of geostrategic competition, and excavating of region existing vulnerabilities. The elements of quality infrastructures must address the enduring challenges in the region outlined in the 2050 strategy. I am pleased that the Tonga Chamber of Commerce is hosting the hub, underscoring the key role they play in promoting and encouraging private sector participation in the infrastructure sector as they bring to fruition infrastructure projects in areas of vital economic importance. I'd like to echo the points made at Brief Week 2022, that's last year. The importance of private and local participation to meet infrastructure development needs, not just in Tonga, but across the Pacific. How local equity makes good business sense, and the need to identify leading chambers of commerce across the Pacific to identify local partners. This is also an important principle of quality infrastructure. As a small development state, Tonga faces several structural and supply-side constraints, such as weak physical infrastructure, insufficient financial resources, and low technological capacity. Tonga alone cannot address these challenges. Our donor partners and private sector play a crucial role in helping Tonga realize its development objectives outlined in the Tonga Strategic Development Framework and Tonga National Infrastructure Investment Plan 3, updated recently and approved by the government. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the Brief Coordination Office, the Tonga Chamber of Commerce and the team for organizing the Brief Week 2023 Tonga Hub Day. For those of you attending the Brief Week 2023 virtual conference this week, I encourage you to identify lessons from our neighboring countries on how to enhance and strengthen local participation in infrastructure delivery that is inclusive, provides value for money, and will help meet our sustainable development goals. Malo Vita.
Pamalatik nista i lea whapofo ko whahako. Ke ne toi hanga o whamanatu pia mo whamamawhai mai a mahu'inga koe ni o ka veinga o tauhene i he pongpongo ni wa pe ke wike koe ni. If you take a moment just to reflect on the significance of what we're here for this morning, as you've heard from the welcome and the keynote speech, it's a topic that will impact not just today and our future, and I'm sure you're well aware of that. And you've heard, there's the content that has been delivered and spoken of. It's about inclusion. It's about access to climate. To finance that will, to help with building resilient infrastructure, the procurement, the programming, and the delivery of quality infrastructure. It's all there. And so just to emphasize the importance of why we're here today in that. And I say that because the next speakers that we have up on the screen, unfortunately, Auntie Lala cannot join us this morning, but we have Rima Misa. And Rima Misa is going to enjoy all the time that he has to speak about giving a practical perspective into what have just been said in the aforementioned speeches and words, and so Rima will be speaking on that. But before I invite Rima to come on, just to highlight what I just mentioned, you can still register for Brief Week 2023. Just right behind me, it's a bit inconvenient to see it, but there's a QR code which we will put out at the end of the session for you to scan, and you can go onto their website and register to still continue be part of this important week. And so it is my pleasure right now to invite Rima. Rima's already. All right, Rima Misa from Lava Mea Ta'iloa Disabled People Association, and he will deliver the remarks from the industry. As I said, it's giving that the practical perspective and how things are. And so Rima, Arima katak mai mua, whahoko atu ai tau lea I he konga koe ni o Paukalama. Malo betu rima.
Thank you, MC, for this morning. Malo Lele, good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Almighty God, our Lord and Savior. He's here with us this morning. Guest of honor, Honorable Minister, Infrastructure, donors, development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege and honor for me to speak on behalf of people with disability in Tonga as well as elderly people. And my speech this morning will be focusing on equality, infrastructures, accessibilities, inclusion. There are three components that we must have in order for us to experience equality, infrastructures, accessibilities, and inclusion. First, we must understand the paradigm shift. Second, inclusiveness. Third, accessibility. Understand the paradigm shift, we must realize that persons with disability, they are no longer based on charity models, medical models, but they are shifting to a social models and human rights approach. Persons with disability must access to equal rights on an equal basis with others. For example, as much as you need to a high good quality education and high quality of standard of living, so do I as a person with disabilities. We all access and enjoy the full fundamental freedoms of every human rights. Second, inclusiveness. Inclusiveness, it is not a matter of attending as a decoration or being sitting there to taking the box done. We have to be part of discussing the issue, be part of designing the program will accommodate our needs, as well as making decisions what it will affect ourselves. So often, we sit in a meeting just to be part of it and no voices. But as I mentioned, inclusiveness means, from our perspective, I have to be part of discussing the issue, designing the program, will accommodate our needs as well as making decisions what it will affect ourselves. I understand that Tonga has a national infrastructure investment plan 2021 to 2030. And I don't know how they included us, whether this policy is inclusive or not, whether they consider us persons with disability when they develop this policy, this plan. I know there's 47 priorities project, but I don't know whether the government consider included persons with disabilities in this plan, because we were not invited to be part of the consultation. Inclusiveness, unless we all include in planning of our economic development, we are not able to achieve our goal to make sure there's no one left behind. Because at the end of the day, we will become a great burden for the economic development of our country. It is more costly to ignore people with disabilities and elderly people rather than doing something for themselves economically. You can imagine how much percentage of GDPs goes to marginalized people, including people with disability, if we keep on ignoring them. That's why I said it is more costly to ignore themselves than do something for ourselves. Last part of my speech, as I mentioned, is accessibility. As you look around, most of the public buildings here are not accessible at all. Even though that we have a building code under the Ministry of Infrastructure, but I don't know how they implement it. And one of the chaos challenges that people with disability are going through, if you ever look through the sidewalks here, most sidewalks, right in the middle of the sidewalks, there are always electricity poles out there. How can a wheelchair user access to that? Guests of honor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, if we cannot make sure that everything in Tonga is accessible, inclusiveness, as well as everybody exercise their right, I guarantee you, by 2030, we all fail in the Sustainable Development Goals. Because Goal 11, accessible city, talk about it. In my encouragement, let's just come to a point and make sure that we are access to quality infrastructure, accessibility, and social inclusion. Malo apito.
Whamalo pito ki a Rima Misa, pe mi he lava mea Tailoa Disabled People Association I he lea whawhawhako ia. Rima, I love the passion in your voice. I can hear what you're... Let me just share something personal here. And I'm sure the CEO, I'm here the CEO for the Tonga Post Limited, and colleague is here. A few years ago, I was part of a team at Tonga Post that led a project on the renovation, which you have the new building that it is today. And I remember those days we had a particular customer, they came to collect mail, and this person was on a wheelchair. And I was one of those guys at the front sales team that made sure we had a plywood that will pull up to make sure that we ramp him and he will come on to the mailbox area where it was back then to collect his mail. And so from there, when we were planning the renovation of the building, what it is today, as I mentioned, we had that particular person part of our little committee that we were planning, on giving us a feedback on it. I mentioned this, Rima, because of the what you mentioned on inclusiveness and accessibility. And so, happy to say that, long story short, we managed to build a ramp on the side, if you notice, on the side to where the BSP bank is. We had a ramp going up there so we can make sure, and this particular customer was so thrilled that we had considered him. Just one customer, but we made sure in that planning and design that we did, and very thankful to the construction company at the time, Capella Construction. They accepted and went to do modifications to the architectural plans and to make sure that was delivered. And I do echo what you are saying, Rima. We do. I know it's really about a collective effort. They were all part of this. Thank you. Look, without further ado, let's continue with the next part of the program, which we will have the Vice President of the Tonga Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Aloma Johnson, to deliver the response to the keynote speaker this morning. Thank you very much. Let's have an applause for Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Sifa. Te kolpe ke hufanga Ngaahi Whakatapu ko oso na whak mei moani. Ka tā mau ke respond ki he keynote speaker, ai ko tau Minister, Honourable 17 i tau maua, pa te to lalahi atu pe. Honourable Minister, 17 tau maua, members from the Diplomatic Corps, our President from the Chamber of Commerce, CEOs and all the members of the private sector and donor partners who are here this morning. Good morning, and a special acknowledgement of Caroline, who has handheld the Chamber of Commerce and helped them to understand the importance of this week and the importance, indeed, of the Pacific Regional Infrastructure Facility and what it means and what it will mean for Tonga and its economy, the private sector. So in response to the Honourable Minister, I'd just like to make a really, really high-level response to it. My part in this is actually quite difficult without knowing what it was that they were going to speak about. Sam cheated and quickly took the keynote, the opening remarks, and left me to this. However, like Sam, I was privileged to be part of the delegation that went to Brisbane. It was further privilege to have been selected to speak on behalf of Tonga's private sector at the breakout sessions. For me, having been in Chamber for 20 years, and I'm not sure that's a good thing, because I like to think that during those years I have managed to do or contribute to the well-being of the private sector, we were able to talk about what it is that we from the private sector can do to participate in the implementation of these 47 identified project pipelines. That is across 10 to 15 years, I think. I won't quote the value of it, but it's hundreds of millions of dollars. Our challenge, Honourable Minister, having identified that the government recently approved the 47 pipeline projects. The one that is currently operating is the Ngaahi Wharf project, worth in the vicinity of about 30 million. We also have the bridge coming on board, which is another 100 million, offers benefits for the private sector in terms of being able to participate in being part of that implementation process. Our challenge as a private sector is that the content, the local content, lack some of the skills and the capacities to become good contractors, to become good industry players. We had the privilege of speaking with the Honourable Minister, who was very encouraging and spoke to us, included in his speech today, that there is a need for the private sector, in the form of, to be led by the Chamber of Commerce, to have twinning arrangements between our local industry and the contractors that come in from abroad. The other challenge, of course, is that those that we do have remaining in the private sector, sir, at the left, those that remain after we've had this drain because of the seasonal workers. So that has affected even further our ability to offer or increase local content in the building construction industry. Both Sam and I have been very passionate about involving the private sector in these opportunities that these infrastructural projects are going to offer. I think one of the glaring ones that we have noted is the provision of accommodation for these expatriate workforce. Right now, we are unable to provide sufficient accommodation. So that's another benefit. Going forward, anyone in the room, apart from construction workers who have the ability to purchase property and flip them, I encourage you to do so, because we have many projects coming on board over the next 5 to 10 years. So you get yourself a loan, find some property that's mortgaged by the bank, flip it, and there's your revenue. I note that we have the insurance representative from the insurance here, and I do know that they have also delivered the importance of our local companies being able to tap into the benefits of being insured. The challenges that we have in private sector include the procurement practices that leads to non-payment in timely payment of bills. There are limited professional opportunities to assist our local content to be able to do such things as write contracts, to be able to price their bids correctly. And unfortunately, we need from the private sector to be able to train these people. But therein lies another problem. These training facilities, one which was with the Chamber of Commerce, needs funding. And we need to seek donor partners to be able to help us, to energize us, to enable us to provide the training skills, the training that our local content requires. I'm not going to delve into too much here. The inclusiveness and accessibility of the disabled community and the vulnerable community is noted, Rima. It's an ongoing work in progress. Please do not be discouraged. I do know that the disability community was one of 3 communities that had access to the Green Climate Fund. Chamber of Commerce, the Disability and the National Society, to the tune of $333,000 US. So there are capacities in the community, and I'd like to thank the donors around the table for this. Honourable Minister, I am very encouraged from the private sector that you have spoken directly to the partnerships the private sector can form with government, so far as to identify that if there are gaps within the government capabilities, if, I say, so government, please do not be offended, that you will reach out to the private sector if they possess the skills and possess the knowledge as to how to help out. I would like to say that koe loto whale pe e taha he whanua ko e ni. Ko hono ke he pe, it's a 3-seat couch over there and a 2-seat couch over here and an armchair. So different furnitures, but we all form part of the one sitting room. And I'd like to think that going forward, in the future, in the near future, that government will work more closely with the private sector, and private sector will have its responsibility of responding responsibly to the opportunities that are presented to them. When I met Erin this morning, I said to Erin, my greatest fear was that I was going to waffle, and I think I have. But I hope that parts of what I have to say, what I've said in response to the Honourable Minister's address, has perhaps given just a little bit of an insight of how private sector can derive benefits from these infrastructural programs. Just in drawing your attention to the definition of what quality infrastructure is, it aims to maximize the positive economic, environmental, social, and development impact of these projects and the financial sustainability. And then it gives you a list of the things that we should consider. Honourable Minister, thank you so very much for accepting our invitation. I'm not going to encroach on Sam's vote of thanks, but personally, I would like to say thank you. For the many years that I've worked in the Chamber of Commerce in the private sector, I would have to say to you all that this is the first minister who has acknowledged us as part of his delegation. And I thank you, and I look forward to further collaboration and partnership with members in the government. Thank you.
Malo pito alama le whamalat mai pe a mea mahu'inga au kuhoa pe mo ka veinga o ahoni pe ke wikeni ko e lo whare pe ne taha. You know, we can only do this together. Inclusiveness, it is, but really it's about us doing it and working together. And thank you for that. Before we continue with the vote of thanks, just a recap on this morning's words and the spirit of the delivery. We had the guest of honor. We thank you, Honourable Minister, once again for the wisdom and the guidance and the partnership that Aloma has mentioned, and acknowledging Chamber and so as the private sector. Sam and Aloma for the call out to us together in this room and outside of this room as the private sector, and also public enterprises, and call to us together to work to achieve what we call the quality infrastructure. I was thinking about the Tongan translation for this. I'm not really sure. I'll leave that to you guys to talk about that over lunch probably. But talking about lunch, my 7-year-old son did ask me, Dad, what's the thing that you're going to do this morning? And I sort of explained to him. But he said to me, what is quality infrastructure? I said to him, since we're having breakfast, I said, it's just like food that tastes really good, like breakfast. So if it's good, you'll enjoy it. And so with that, I'd like to finish, but may I remind you, we do have the second part of the program after this. That's after lunch, and that will be the virtual session. That's the program for that, which we'll put up. But, please do stay back for lunch. Part of this session and part of the conference is to really network, get to know each other, be friends, because as I said, and as Rima has, alluded to, we got to be inclusive and do this together. Once again, without further ado, it's my privilege to also, again, invite the President of the Tonga Chamber of Commerce Industry to deliver the vote of thanks before we continue to the closing prayer with our Reverend for today, David Alavimai. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That the translation there, say for quality food, good food that tastes good. But then again, we forget one thing, tastes good and is accessible by everyone. I think that's the most important thing. I'd like to say thank you, even though Vice President have said it all. Honourable Minister, 17th or more. We have the members of the mission. We have Aaron and Thomas. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. It's something that we at Chambers push for. Anything with economic development. Aloma and I, this is a new thing for us, but we're willing to learn and see where we can all benefit in part of private sector. As the Minister mentioned earlier, the pipeline we bring in is for us at private sector, that we're looking that there is guarantee of jobs and money making coming out from government, that we're willing to invest on training and improving the local contents, so they will be able to take part on these multi-million-dollar projects that comes into Tonga, especially this project of $1.4 billion. That's something that will help our economic development and help everybody in Tonga. So we thank you for taking the time and participate with us in this very important conference. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to continue on until Friday, and you probably need to register, and so you can participate, and then know a little bit more about what's going on and how us here in Tonga can access this multi-million-dollar projects that's coming from the donors. Without further ado, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to ask the Reverend Devita to come in and finish off our program for this morning. Malo opito.
Taulot, pia koe keresia tau iko si sukalaisi, mo whalahi au tua ko tamai, whio hi mo lau maari e maoni on, ke tutuku ia mo whataha ikin, o nā hiri, kai whai peo tai ngata. Amen.
Ko he kangata ia e programa.
Malo pito kada pio ki ko le pe
whawatu whaloloa. Pare konfinis ko e whane lua. Ko e whataha ia ko tatake a honi e Chamber of Commerce, ko e Ngaahi Pisinisi ko e a Tonga. Whataha whok pia mo e ngā sino ko tōna kau mai ki e whotutuko i taimini ko whotutuko ki ha quality infrastructure for Blue Pacific Continent ki ha ngā ue o tuene leang e hana tōunga ko ia ko ngā lalahi e ni ki o tā continent ko ia Pacific Blue lere mea honi a wano a kotopa whatawang nea lere atu e whawhatungia ko ia o e pongpongi ni me kau whawhatungia ko ia me he Broadcom ya pate Junior Kisina pe foki ya Webster Junior Lea Filia Paya Poterevo de Fua Mesake Famokio Kosas Lwaka